Hello, hello, hello! Welcome, Dungeon Masters, to your class, ChatGPT for Tabletop Dungeon Masters, where we're empowering players through technology and gaming tools. And I'm your host, VenusHASRisen. Let's get started to the nitty gritty, shall we? You're a Dungeon Master, I'm a Dungeon Master, and they're the players. So how do we keep them interested in the story we have to tell? How do we engage them and make them want to come back for more? Well, that's the trick of being a dungeon master, isn't it? Thankfully, we have so many tools at our disposal. ChatGPT being one of the newest tools imaginable. And allow me to preface this by saying, in this class, I'm not teaching you how to use ChatGPT for everything. It is one tool in my entire arsenal of tools. But, since we're here, let's get started. How about we use it to figure out what tools are available for Dungeon Masters? And let's see what it says. Dice apps, a GM screen, notebook journal. Look at all these suggestions. I actually do occasionally use Incarnate to make my maps. I don't use any of these, but I do know dungeon masters that do. I've never heard of the rest of these. And then of course D&D Beyond is a really good one. And obviously I've used Zoom and Discord before. Look at all these tools that it has suggested. Now, what if, like in Theater of Dice, we're playing digital games? We're gonna go with 1. Because like I said, I don't want to use technology to do everything for me. I'm gonna stop it from generating its previous answer. Alright. So Foundry, Roll20, Owlbear Rodeo. I am a huge fan of Owlbear. It is completely free. And it doesn't eat nearly as many resources as Roll20. And Roll20 makes you like own all the books. And I've heard of Fantasy Grounds, but I've never used it. Discord, Zoom, I've used both of those. I normally do not use audio for my gaming. It's chaotic enough. And then look, it lists its own as a AI helper. Okay. So now that it has given us a list of tools other than itself and including itself to use, let's see what else we can do with it. So let's say we are doing DM prep. Okay. And let's say I already have a world built. In fact, allow me, I'm just gonna search it. Describe a continent in a D&D setting. Let's say as a desert wasteland. Let's see what it gives us. Because now I'm trying to create a map. Like I have an idea for it, but let's see what it gives us. Okay, okay, okay. Now I could take this information and I could plug it into, like I could go into Incarnate and create a map and then make little markers of these things. This just gives me an idea of what my map could possibly look like. And then it gives me inhabitants and stuff. And maybe I don't want to use this because I already have in mind for my inhabitants. Like, instead, my inhabitants are beast folk and dragonborn. So then it updates the information to be a little better. Okay, and then I'm gonna say, well, of course you gotta add like a pantheon or something. Give your NPCs a reason to live. So I'm gonna say they worship the moon god from a known pantheon. Pick any, because sometimes I like creating my own like everything, but sometimes you can use what is already out there. Like there's known religious pantheons. There's the Norse, the Greek, the Roman. There's like the Hindu gods. Like just pick one. And I accidentally hit that J at the end. So, pantheon. Oh, and they pulled it from actual D&D, which is easy, or which is nice because they already there's already information to pull from about that pantheon or that goddess from the actual player's handbook, which is really nice. So I'm gonna ask it. I'm gonna copy and paste this in there. I'm gonna say what book and page is this found on? Book Forgotten Realms campaign setting, 3rd edition, around page 136 to 138 in the Divine Realms and Deity and Truths section. You can also find the lore in this book on pages 46 through 50, or for 5th edition on this book on pages 21 to 22. And those are the main official source books that cover portfolio, dogma, followers, and divine powers. Would you look at that? It's not doing everything for you, it's telling you where you can go to get actual information. Now, let's have it actually do something actually for us instead of sending us to do our research. Just to show you an example of what that's like, okay? I need a shopkeeper for this world. Not an extremely important character. He sells water. Use D&D 5e 2014 edition currency and pricing methods to price his goods. Let's see what it gives us. It gives us a name, a race, an age, appearance, personality, even gives us his little shop, and then it gives us, look at that, water. And it gives us prices. Now, to get to this point where it gives us actual decent prices, let me see if I still, no I do not, because I've copied and pasted something else. ChatGPT is not going to automatically know how to set this up right off the bat. It's a tool that learns what you like. So to get it to learn what you like, you actually do have to do some research. So what I did is I googled D&D currency. You can see my last search, and then I clicked on the first link and it gives me a table. I copy and pasted that table in there for another campaign. And then I did cheap D&D items with prices. Actually, let me do common with prices. I don't want magic. I just want... Here we go. That's not what I was looking for. Well, I already clicked on that. Let's look at this one. And I officially hate pop-ups and all this. Okay, so this gives us a breakdown of magic item rarity and all that. And I'm gonna just copy and paste it and put it in. So ChatGPT will know this because I've given it to him. And we're going to say water is uncommon. Desert. See how I'm building my own database inside ChatGPT just for this campaign that I'm coming up with off the drop of a hat. So and look how it's already giving me pricing suggestions, this and that. So, update price chart for water selling NPC. And look, you can even copy the table. And it even gives me water accessories too. And it has updated the prices for me. But if you think that's too extreme, I still have my other price and I can copy and paste that as well. Alright, so we've got an NPC, we've got a little continent built. Let's say I need something to happen just to keep my players on their toes, and I tell them to roll a d20. I'm going to tell ChatGPT, generate me a d20 table of random encounters that fit this world. Here we go. And look at that. It's already giving me stuff to do. So if I'm struggling to get them from point A to point B in a campaign, either I may roll a d20, or if, let's say, they're talking over each other and breaking my rules, I'm going to tell them to roll a d20, and one of these things is probably going to happen. just for funsies. Of course, you could always just tell them to roll a d20 and then not say a word. Keep them on their toes, guys. So now, what if I want to generate an image of a character to use for a character token? Okay. I'm going to, and you can either just have the image, or sometimes you can get it to actually make the token. I'm just going to have it generate an image. With ChatGPT on the free side, usually can get about 3 images a day out of it. I did use an image last night, so it may not have reset, but we're going to try. Generate an image of my NPC. Let me go back to where it gave me a description, because I didn't really care what he looked like. Copy. Paste. We're gonna change his hair color to something funny. White. Let's see what it gives us. And as you can see, yep, I did hit my free plan. However, if you go to the side, you can see images that you've like generated before. I'm not going to click that though, because I don't want my players seeing things that I have in store for them. That's okay though. We will skip that part. But you saw it started to before it realized I had hit my... But generally, if you type something like this in and you haven't hit your free plan limit, it will give you something. So, let's move on to something I can actually do. Okay? Let's say you are playing a mini game with your players, and I've done this once, okay? I did a battleship simulation with them where they were fighting a pirate on open water. And it was essentially, I had a grid. So I had a grid that was A to G and 1 to 8, I want to say. And the players would say, I am aiming for C5. Does it hit the pirate? Okay, now the way this worked is the players could either choose to attack or move. And they would tell me where they're moving. I would then input where they moved, or if they're not moving, I would input where they're aiming for. And then I would put this in the thing. And I will, since I didn't specify, I'm going to specify you are playing the pirate. Okay. Does it hit? You can't move this turn. Alright. So I need to specify. And I need to specify good. Okay. I am going to just copy this. You are playing the pirate. It is foggy. They can't see. Please generate your position within the grid. If I could spell, that would be fabulous. And please generate your position within the grid. And if a player picks a grid and you are there, please specify if it hits you. Okay. Picked E3, C5. Yep. Aims at C5. Does it hit? No, I'm not. C5 is too far. Okay. Your turn. Player is on C3. You don't know. You don't actually know their position. So you random pick. Okay, so there, I fixed it. So now that I've got it, I'm going to go back to my last generated. And I'm going to do this. And see, it's learning as you go. Now, am I using this to run my entire game? No. Am I using this to help me simulate a mini war game that keeps my players interested? Yes. The downside of this is if I don't already have the rules inputted into ChatGPT before the game, I'm going to struggle because, as you saw, I had to essentially have it reevaluate the rules a couple times, and I made micro adjustments. Is it frustrating when you're first doing it? Yes. However, once you have it and it knows the rules, I'm gonna say players have decided not to attack this turn. They are moving. It is now your turn. Alright, so let's say that the players correctly guessed E4. Players fire cannonball at E4 at, let's give him a name, Captain Blackthorn, to use a name that I've had in a campaign before, an ex-player. And see, it tells. And then you as the DM can act it out. You can be like, oh, that cannonball hit. How could you? I'll get you next round. Or something, you know? Something fun. So, these are just examples of what you can use ChatGPT for. As you've seen, I've used it to help me not exactly build an entire world, but I used it to help me organize a continent that I may have been struggling with. I used it to find resources that I may not have already knew about. I've been DMing for over a year now, and some of these that it listed I've never even heard of. Some of these I have. And it suggested things that I may not have thought of. And look at that. It lists Theater of Dice. How sweet is that? It's just simple. Really, really simple. Really, really easy. And I like it. So, when you're out there building your world for your players, I want you to consider all of the tools in your arsenal. Don't just rely on any one tool. Me as a DM, I use ChatGPT, I use Incarnate, I use Canva even. I use Trello board. I even rely on other dungeon masters and even sometimes my players to help me with ideas. I use Discord. I Google stuff. I have physical books. I will hand draw my maps and then use Incarnate to build them. There's so many resources out there. Don't just feel like you're limited to one. This has been our class on ChatGPT for Tabletop RPG Dungeon Masters for Theater of Dice. Thank you for joining.